live just immediately, no promo, no nothing. Hopefully, whoever shows up is really going to appreciate this and be drawn to this information in the flow of it. You attracted it, trust it if you're seeing it. Like I said, this was not a promoted video, not a promoted session. I'm really in the flow. I wanted to capture this. And like I said, just know that if you are hearing it, you're meant to hear it no matter when you catch this video. I want to share something with you that you're not going to hear in trauma therapy. And I wanted to share about 30 years of my experience on the interpersonal healing journey, on the inner child recovery journey, on the codependency recovery journey. I wanted to share that with my audience because you are people that are looking for answers. Now, remember, you're going to be really frustrated by people, including myself, that aren't asking for this information. We can become such annoying people. We're like, I learned this. So I've stopped doing that in my own life. Even my own children kind of like get sick of me, and that's okay. It's okay. You know, I'm creating a legacy with this YouTube library, and if they ever need this information, it'll be there. But you are here. I want to say thank you for being here, and I want to show you a diagram. Now, you're not going to hear this from any trauma therapist. You're not going to hear this from a psychologist, and you're not going to see it from, you're not going to get this in a psychiatrist's office, okay? Because it is something that I think that we have to all discover on our own. So what I'm showing you here right now, I'm going to explain this diagram. If you've been with me for any length of time, you've heard me say that childhood trauma keeps us in the past. That's us living below the veil of consciousness. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up. Human beings are 95% subconscious. They only see a fraction, 0.6% of reality. So your senses are lying to you all the time. If you are hypervigilant, you are anxious. If you are hypervigilant, you expect bad things to happen. If you expect bad things to happen, you're tuned up for bad things happening, which means you're not an emotional equivalent for good things happening. And so I now have a beautiful relationship with my husband, Anthony, which is the opposite of what I experienced in my first marriage. That's not by mistake. Because I expected to marry someone, or don't think it wasn't conscious, but I did not feel good enough. So what did I attract? I attracted my mother's emotional twin. And he did not think that I was enough. And I knew that. But what did I try to do as a little girl, an inner child that was running the ship? I kept trying to fix the reflection in the mirror. I'll be good enough, and then he'll approve of me. I'll do this, and then he'll approve of me. I won't ask for this, and then he'll approve of me. Freaking codependency. And so I didn't know I was doing that. And there's no way that I could have escaped that and gone through the deep, dark night of the soul and not healed myself and walked up and out of that subconscious programming, living below the veil of consciousness, and create the life that I've been living with my husband Anthony for the past 16 years. I'm not bragging. I really hope that you're inspired. But this type of information is not going to land with everyone. That's why I like doing these spontaneous live streams, because who's ever here is meant to be here. And so you're not going to hear this in a trauma therapist office, but you will hear it from someone like me who knows for a fact that this is how it works, because my life is evidence. And so I want to show you the diagram again. Remember that all my teaching is based on this idea that we are born asleep and we absorb through this vibrational osmosis the energy of our families. So if our families are wound up, if mom's wound up, if mom is anxious, if dad's an alcoholic or a narcissist or whatever, there's a particular energy and there's a particular vibe that happens in that family. Now, in order for me to be able to survive, I have to attune to that energy. So now my mind ruminates. So now I'm tuned up for mom's tone. Now I'm ruminating what's going to happen next, okay? So my nervous system has attuned to this craziness, but I'm below the veil of consciousness. That's the way I was. That's the way all humans are. Not our fault. Each human being is on the journey, in my humble opinion, to integrate with higher self. Trauma separates us from higher self. That's not our fault. Trauma obscures intuition. because self-doubt will override intuition. Miracles happen when we align. We have inner alignment with higher self. It's taken me 30 years to figure this out. You're going to get 30 years of trauma therapy in like hopefully less than 10 minutes here. So let me get back to the diagram because pictures are worth 1,000 words. Okay, now this is my diagram. Okay, this is you and me before awakening. Childhood keeps us locked in the subconscious mind. This is the veil between the living above and below the veil. You see that it's a mirror. We have a pyramid. And we have a pyramid. My drawing is not the best, but we have a mirror image, which is in the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind, see, this represents the eye is closed. I am closed to my higher self. If I am a child, I am dependent and I am powerless. I have no access to higher self, right? If I have no access to love, I have no access to higher self and love within me. That's not my fault. My eye remains closed. I live in survival, not love, not my fault. So within the subconscious mind, remember this is the subconscious mind. Within the subconscious mind, we hold all our trauma. You, me, freaking everybody. Everybody, Beyonce, Madonna, Oprah, everybody, okay? So within the subconscious mind, within the cells of your body, remember, your body keeps a score. Your body forgets nothing. Your body is your subconscious mind. Stick with me. You're not going to hear this in therapy. You're not going to hear this in therapy. But you'll hear it from someone like me. Because my intention is to not bullshit you. My intention is to help you speedily get back into alignment with who you really are so that you can heal your life, break the cycle of generational trauma, and we can get on with the business of healing our children, healing our families, and finally living authentic lives. Wouldn't that be fun? And now we're no longer controlled by the powers outside of us. We are sovereign. We have autonomy. We're individuated, and nobody, not the media, nothing is in control of us. Not a narcissist, nothing. Not fear, nothing is in control of us, if you get this. Now, below the veil of consciousness is our trauma, our emotions, our memories, and all our habits. So, through repetition, observation, and consistency, your subconscious mind is trauma created. So every thought that you think, it has to do with memory, and the memory is being reinforced because mom was not there for you, or dad did come home drunk. Nobody ever set boundaries in the family. There was the no talk rule. There was no feel rule. There was no think rule. It wasn't safe to think, feel, or speak up. It just wasn't safe. That creates these habits of thinking. I can't speak up. I have to seek his approval. Shut up. Be the peacekeeper. People please. It's all below the veil of consciousness. The weird thing is we think we're conscious because we talk eating crap. No, you're not conscious, right? That's autopilot. A human being can be completely unconscious, operating from below the veil of consciousness, all through trauma. I actually spoke to someone a few days ago. I was like, holy Hannah, this lady is in her trauma. And, just a friend of a friend. And she was absolutely living below the veil of consciousness. And hopefully, she will continue to work her way up through awakening. Wait a minute, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my programs. No. When you start to ask yourself those questions, what starts to happen is this, think about yourself spiraling up. What's spiraling up? Your awareness is spiraling up. Now, if you ask yourself enough questions, what will happen is you spiral up, up, up. You're now above the veil of consciousness. You're still not done. You still need lots of training because you're going to get tested here. So when you get tested here is when you tell a narcissist no. And they come at you, right? Anyway, so what happens is that when you start speaking from your true self, then you're going to start to get tested. So this is a very important point where you need support. Very, very important. While you're starting to ask yourself inner questions, you're sort of like still in the background. But when you apply this new knowledge above the veil, what starts to happen is that you start to get challenged. And this is where things start to get a little funky for you. This is where it's really important that you need a roadmap, you need a system, you need something to cling to, okay? But you have to stick with it. What I did was, as I started to awaken, and then after my divorce, I slipped right back into the subconscious mind because I thought I knew everything. No, I did not. I did not have the tools yet to stay above the veil, right? So I fell right back down, and it was, holy Hannah, it was, hold on, we've got some poor little narcissist in our group. Hold on. So we'll just remove this silly person. And we have another silly person. Hold on one second, dear one. This is how you deal with silly narcissists and silly people that look for attention on other people's live streams. Anyway, so what our journey is our journey is up and out of the subconscious mind. We're trying to spiral up, 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 up. See, here's the all-knowing eye, right? That's the all-knowing eye. And this represents when we're awakened. Now, from this perspective, I want you to understand what's happening. When we're awakening, slowly, 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 we're living above the veil. We feel scared because we're stepping out of the old program. We don't feel safe. And that's why it's so important to understand that this is a process. Healing does not make you feel safe. Healing makes you feel unsafe. That's why systems, processes, roadmaps, support groups, working with the right people, it is so important, because you think that, oh, I'm on the healing journey, I'm going to feel safe. No, dear one, you're going to feel more unsafe than you ever have been in your entire life, because you are leaving all of the patterns below the veil of consciousness. You're saying, I'm not going to people please anymore. What? You're saying no to Sunday meal at mama's house. What? You're saying, no, I don't think I'm going to put up with that sarcasm anymore. Come on, kids, let's go. What? You're challenging the system when you are healing. Eventually, you get to a point. Now, you see how unsafe you feel at the bottom of the triangle? Hear what I'm saying. When you break through the veil, think about this as a mirror. As it is above, so shall it be above. As it is below, so shall it be above. Right? As you feel on the inside, so it is on the outside. What you think and feel on the inside, you manifest on the outside. I was a codependent little girl, and I married a, in my opinion, narcissistic little boy. As it is below, so shall it be above. So once you wrap your head around that, you see so much beauty in it, and you see opportunity in it. So wait a minute, I ended up here because I was asleep? Yes. And that's not my fault? No. And it could be no other way? No, it could actually be no other way. So what's the beauty in it? Freaking awaken. And you don't awaken, you don't become awakened in one giant swoop. It's like you eat with a fork, one bite at a time. That's what the spiral is about. So you have to commit to awakening, awakening, awakening. In my coaching courses, everything's neuroscience-backed journaling prompts, neuroscience-backed journaling prompts, meditations, neuroscience-backed meditations. Why? We're bringing you up and out of the program. That's the way this works. You could do it with me, you could do it with somebody else, you could do it on your own. I'm just telling you how this works. 30 years of therapy in a nutshell. So as you're asking yourself new questions, you're going to start to break through. Here's where things get funky and where a lot of people recoil, unfortunately. They give up. Don't give up. Break through. Breakthrough life coach. Okay, so when you break through, right, look at the width of that triangle. This is the hardest part. When I was breaking through, I had to face financial trauma. I had to work 3 jobs. I had to then work through the fear of not having enough, telling my kids all the time, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. And then realizing one day in the kitchen, wait a minute, I actually can afford that. I didn't even know that I could afford it. I was just so used to saying, I can't afford it, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. So as you're going through the recovery journey, whether it's financial strain or financial fear that you have, or relationship fear, or you're worried about the way that you look, you're worried about being rejected, you're worried about family drama, your sister cursing you out, your mother hating you, you being banished from the kingdom. Good. You don't want to be part of their kingdom anyway, but the inner child thinks you do. Okay? These are all the false ideas that you're breaking through. Once you hit this period, look what's going to happen. It's hard. It's hard when you initially break through, but look what happens if you don't give up. If you don't give up and you continue to coil up, coil up, coil up, coil up, and you get to this place, da da da. You start to live in what I call love consciousness. What has happened? Lower self has now aligned with higher self. You see, your higher self can tuck in lower self. So all this talk about ego death, it's all BS. The ego does not die. When you awaken and you spiral up and you experience enlightenment, when you spiral up and you're asking yourself better questions. Now remember this little I would say master life coach tip is the quality of your life is always going to mirror the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. The greatest Greek philosophers all asked, who am I? If you want to break through, ask yourself all day, who am I? Who am I? Follow it with, what do I feel? Follow it with, why do I feel that way? Why did I react that way? How can I let go of what I'm trying to control? What am I trying to control? What am I in resistance to? All the answers are within you. We've just never been taught how to ask ourselves these questions. Here's the thing. I could do another whole live stream on this one, dear one, okay? I'm going to have a Zoom call about this, so look forward to that, okay? Probably have a Zoom call next, the 25th, Sunday the 25th at 10 a.m. But here's the problem with trauma, okay? Trauma doesn't allow you to step into presence. In order to do this work, you need presence. In order to experience unity with the higher self and the lower self, you need presence. Trauma pulls you out of the present. Eckhart Tolle says the pain body, right? It is a pain body, but it's also a pain brain. And it's also my neurology, and it's also my subconscious patterns. That's why my approach to healing from trauma has always been looking at it as Navy SEAL training. Okay, so a Navy SEAL has to learn how to override the amygdala, because if a Navy SEAL goes into a situation and cannot control the survival response to pull the trigger on a gun in a war-torn country, then the Navy SEAL is going to make a lot of mistakes and hurt people that he shouldn't or she shouldn't hurt. So I always looked at trauma recovery, inner child healing, and codependency recovery as a form of training. I have to retrain my nervous system. I have to retrain the subconscious mind. I have to retrain the thoughts in my head. I have to retrain. And that is what saved my life, is like looking at this as training. So yes, I can keep talking about my trauma, right? I can keep talking about my trauma, but all that's going to do is cause my nervous system to remember how I felt in that trauma. Or I can accept that my nervous system was primed for this, and I can go right into training my mind in a different way. And I could commit to a healing process. And when you take that pragmatic approach to this, you accelerate your healing process. And so I really hope that everybody has really gotten hold of what this diagram is. So we all live below the veil of consciousness. We think we're awake, but we're not. What's controlling us is trauma. Everything goes back to your childhood. The greatest FBI profilers, CIA will tell you that within 5 minutes, they can tell what someone's trauma is. Everything goes back to your childhood, okay? All right, even you. I live with Anthony, he's 65 years old. He's finally accepting that who he is today is tied to his childhood. Imagine, and he lives with me. But you have to be open to this information. If you're open to this information, you ascend higher. If you're not open to this information, then you don't. You stay below the veil a little bit longer. Okay, whatever it is. But for those of us who want to ascend faster, this diagram, don't forget this diagram. As it is above, so shall it be below. This is a mirror reality. What I think and I feel, I manifest. I could not attract Anthony into my life and live a non-codependent reality unless I found my own autonomy and became self-actualized. Then I can draw in somebody who is self-actualized, okay? That makes sense. As it is below, so shall it be above, and vice versa. So this is a mirror reality. Trauma therapist isn't going to tell you that, okay? But this is the reality. And I understand why they don't tell you that, but you know what? Maybe that's why people like me exist. Okay, whatever. Remember, the subconscious mind is all your trauma and your emotions. Everything's been recorded. The body keeps a score, okay? Now, you can live below. Most people live below. Live below. Everybody that you knows, unless they're on the enlightenment journey, interpersonal journey, they're below the veil of consciousness. That's why I always say, why are you arguing with these people? They're below the veil of consciousness. You're not you. You're their mother that abandoned them 30 years ago or 50 years ago. You're not you. You're the boyfriend that cheated on them. You're the sister that held them down and picked their scabs and spit on them when they were little girls. You're not you. You're not you. Why argue with people? Don't waste your time. You know what I say? Namaste, walk away. And shati. Don't say anything. Don't give people who are wired to not see you any freaking personal information. If a narcissist asks you a question, you throw it back on them. I'm fine. How are you? You know, what'd you do on Monday? You constantly ask them questions. Get them off of you. That's how you deal with somebody who is unconscious, or you just walk the frick away. So remember this diagram. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this, that a little story about my mom. So my mom lived below the veil of consciousness her entire life. I'm not sure that my mother ever had a moment in her 72 years where she lived for herself. I watched this as a little girl. I didn't know what I was watching, this fusion between a man and a woman where my mother just did not exist, and how everything that she did, every breath she took, every move she took was, is he going to like it? Is he going to be upset about it? And controlling us in the meantime. So we're three little kids, we're running the house, we're screaming and yelling, and holy Hannah, did we get it when she heard that car door slam, knowing my father was about to walk in the door, okay? So she was trying to control us. So that infused me with this idea that I have to fuse with the outside. I have to take care of everybody who's outside of me in order to feel safe. Very, very dysfunctional. But I'm watching my mom her whole life do this with her alcoholic brother and two alcoholic brothers and with her alcoholic mother. And I'm just watching. Now I'm absorbing all this freaking crap. So I become this way. I'm tightly wound. I'm a codependent. I'm a fixer. I'm a rescuer, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, my mother has her first stroke. Actually, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis first. Then she has a stroke. Then she has a second stroke. Now she's got dementia. So now she's in a wheelchair. And she doesn't even recognize me most of the time. And this one time she happened to recognize me. We were in the nursing home and she looked up at me and she had a very clear moment. Now remember, this is probably a few weeks before she actually passed away, on my birthday, by the way, whatever. So she looks up at me and she says, Lisa. And I said, yeah. And she had the most dazzling blue eyes. And she said, I know why I'm here. And I thought she was having like a dementia moment. And I said, why are you here? Because I was curious as to why she thought she was here. And she said, because a person can do too much. And I looked at her and I said, Mom, this is not your fault. And she shook her head. She goes, nope, it's all my fault. A person can do too much. How sad is that this 72-year-old woman is now in a wheelchair, now has dementia, now can't get out of this codependency, fusion, and enmeshment. She can't escape. So if you think about my mother's diagram, she is way now, she's fallen too far. She's fallen too far. And now her body can't support her. It's gone too far. She was in the belly of it. And for one split moment, she had a rational thought where she realized she didn't know it was codependency. She didn't know that she was living below the veil. She didn't know that it was her childhood trauma. She had significant trauma, my mom. She didn't know it, but in one moment, right before she passed away, I know why I'm here. A person can do too much. What is she saying? I never took care of myself. I never lived for myself. I never pushed back. I never found my higher self. I didn't push through all the fears with your father. I didn't push through all of my trauma fears. I didn't push through. She was almost there when I was about 25 years old, maybe, 25, 26. She was going to leave my father. But she got to a point where she was living just a little bit above the veil. She got a job working in the post office. She was making a little bit of money. She lost a bunch of weight. She's starting to feel good about herself, and men were hitting on her, and she's starting to think like, I don't have to live with this banana. And she was right here. But My father gave her so much crap, she recoiled back down and she went right back into her codependent fusion with my father. And when you fuse with codependency, I want you to understand what's really happening. A trauma therapist is not going to say it this way, okay? I want you to understand that when you have codependency, it is so bad because you are fusing with your trauma. You are fusing with trauma memories. You're fusing with the nervous system that has been wired to react to subconscious fears. You're fusing with the past. It's like this. You don't escape it. So the illusion is, okay, because you're living below the veil. Now when you manifest a narcissist above the veil, you're focusing on the narcissist. That's not the problem. The problem is that you're below the veil. And you have now... you have now fused with a narcissist, right? You have now fused with a narcissist above, well, at least in your life, in your practical life, but you're still below the veil. I want you to understand that you can live your entire life below the veil, which is what my mother did. It's what my mother did. And it's what I swore to myself I would not do once I saw it and I decided, and the catalyst for me was like, if my grandmother, who was a severe alcoholic, and grandfather, who was a severe alcoholic, did this to her children, my mother's brothers died a terrible, terrible death. And I believe that my mother died a terrible death, right? So if my grandmother could die a terrible death and live a terrible life, and my mother could escape out, well, be a dry alcoholic, but still be an alcoholic inside. If she did not escape, and I did not escape, if I don't escape while I still have energy and health to push me through the veil and push until I get to here, then my children are doomed. That paralyzed me for a while. But it also gave me the courage, the fire in my heart to do this work, because a codependent mother and father will do for their children what they would never do for themselves. And so looking at my children and knowing, oh my God, they're going to have the same fate as my mother or me or my alcoholic uncles, they're going to have the same fate. I'm so unhappy in my marriage. Oh my God, I don't want my children to be financially dependent upon a person that abuses them. I don't want my children to be emotionally dependent upon someone who treats them so poorly, that has indifference towards them. I want my children to have the strength to say no more. But it's not just about verbally or consciously saying no more. You literally have to fight to push yourself up. Push yourself up. That's why I believe in training. That will make the difference. So, having said all that, I invite you to explore a couple of my options. I have a monthly membership for $49. You get inside my private membership. You get access to so many of my trainings. You get access to 2 years of live group coaching. You get access to every month, you'll do a live group coaching session with me on Zoom where I answer your questions live. You get a like-minded support group. You can go to lisaaromano.com and join the Breakthrough Warrior membership, and you can cancel anytime. Or you can email me at coach@lisaaromano.com. We have a 21-day inner child journaling downloadable workbook for $27. We have the boundary building workbook and MP3 for, I think, $47. Like, so many opportunities for you to find the roadmaps that you need to get up and out of the subconscious mind. And I would say that if you really want structure and a real container to break through, especially if you want to break through generational trauma, I would say the best course for that is the 12-week Breakthrough Coaching Program, which is now offered on demand. I will be offering that class live this June. And so, dear ones, like I said, you're not gonna hear this. You're not gonna hear this from a trauma therapist. You're not gonna hear it from a psychologist. You're not gonna hear it from a psychologist. If this makes sense to you, I am so freaking happy, because this is doable. This is doable. I can say to myself, wow, why am I upset about that? Why does that keep showing up in my life? Who and what am I trying to control? What emotion am I running from? I can do that to myself. And boom, awareness, boom, awareness, boom, awareness, boom, awareness. And so the other thing is that you have to shift your identity. Stop identifying with the wounded you and start identifying with the higher self you. This is love consciousness. Below the veil is ego consciousness. The third course in my foundational programs is called Soul School, a course in the quantum science of love consciousness. But I don't suggest that anyone start there. Start with the 12-week class, go to the 8-week class, and then Soul School. This is the journey that those 3 classes and those 3 trainings will take you on. Awareness hurts. It's supposed to. That is you letting go of your control. But here's the thing. There are going to be people that understand this, and there are going to be people that put this into action. But I will tell you that healing hurts. And what we have to learn to do is to be present with those boo-boos. No different than me being present with my 3-year-old granddaughter. Is she scared because she heard a big boom and she didn't know where it came from? I'm just present with her. We have to activate the inner sentinel, the inner observer, the silent observer, and learn to be there for our emotions. Because if we don't, we remain in denial. We suppress, we stay below the veil of consciousness, we stay in therapy, and nothing changes. Nothing changes. We just keep, this is why I had to get out of CODA, because after a few months of CODA, I was like, nobody's changing. I wasn't getting the steps to take this journey. And that's what I wanted. And since 2012, since the publishing of my first book, I've created a mission-based business. I mean, it's been an incredible ride because I've incrementally committed myself to living above the veil of consciousness. So narcissists are gnats. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. I don't need your approval. I don't need your approval. As a matter of fact, I welcome a narcissist's disapproval. I welcome it. Go ahead, bring it on. Oh, I'm this, no problem. That's what you think, no problem. Oh, I don't like you, no problem. This, you're this, okay, no problem. I think you're this, okay, no problem. People can only see you through their lens. And if their lens is cloudy and muddy because they're living below the veil of consciousness, dear one, there's nothing that you could do to clear that lens. Their lens is closed. Their lid is closed. Give them permission. Give them permission. I so hope this has reached you and reached your heart. And sure, share this video. It should be processed in a few minutes. Share this video, watch it over and over. Make a copy of the diagram so it sits inside your head. Yeah, and thank you so much for being here. Consider joining the Break the Warrior membership site. It's a monthly membership. You can cancel anytime. You get inside my private membership. You get to hang out with me on Zoom. It's wonderful. You got this, dear ones. Bye for now. Bye. Thank you for being here, everybody.